Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the April 10th meeting of the Oklahoma City Planning Commission. I'd like to call us to order. And before we begin, just go over a few housekeeping items if you've never been here before. If you have a cell phone with you, if you could do us a favor and please silence or turn it off. If you're here to speak on an item, please fill out one of the forms available outside and provide that to Elena or Jared down here. And then when that item is heard, you'll be called to the podium when it's appropriate to speak. Please come to the podium and give your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to speak. If you're here to speak with a large group of folks, which I designate a representative to share your group's concerns. Where several speakers are going to be heard on the same item, we ask that you do your best to limit comments and concerns to those that we haven't heard, and we're just trying to avoid extensive repetitious comments. Please direct all your comments or questions to us, the commission, and if needed, we'll ask the applicant or staff to respond. Finally, we just want to let you know we appreciate everyone's presence here today and the time that you took away from your obligations, and then we just ask for your cooperation in upholding the decorum of the meeting, and we ask that you don't speak from the audience. So with that, we'll take our first item on the agenda, which is the receipt of the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to receive the minutes of March 27, 2025.
We have a motion to receive the minutes. It's been seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your votes. Are we waiting on someone? Commissioner Pennington? Okay. Do we need a voice vote to confirm? Oh, got it. All right, and the minutes are received. Thank you. Item 3 is continuance requests, and we'll start with uncontested requests.
Item 17 is KC 7719, request to defer to April 24th. Item 18, Give me the microphone. Item 18 is PUD 2057, deferred to April 24th. And item 19, case PUD 2061, deferred to May 8th. And item 20, case SPUD 1722, has been withdrawn.
And I'll just confirm that no one is here to be heard on any of those items. All right, seeing none, I just need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the uncontested requests as read.
I have a motion to approve the uncontested requests. It's been seconded by Commissioner Privet. Please cast your votes. And those uncontested requests are approved. New requests.
Item 10, case SPUD 1713, request to defer to May 8th. Item 11, SPUD 1720, defer to May 8th. Item 13, case SPUD 1708, defer to June 12th. Item 15, PUD 2059, defer to April 24th. And item 16, case C 7721, defer to April 24th.
All right, anyone here to be heard on any of those items? All right, I think we're ready for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the new continuance requests as read.
A motion to approve the new requests. It's been seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your votes. And the new requests are approved. All right, next item is the consent docket.
Item 1 is a case C 7726, final plat of Meadow Lake Industrial Park, Section 2, located north of Southwest 119th Street and west of South Meridian Avenue. Item 2 is case C 7727, final plat of the Manors at Annecy, Phase 2, located south of Northwest 150th Street and west of North MacArthur Boulevard.
And one last check if anyone here to speak on any of the items on the consent docket. All right, we're ready for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent docket.
A motion to approve the consent docket. It's been seconded by Commissioner Pennington. Please cast your votes. And the consent docket is approved. All right, move on to items requiring a separate vote and begin with item 3.
This is case VP 8, application to vacate a portion of the final plat of Lincoln Boulevard Industrial Edition, located south of Northwest 150th Street and east of North Santa Fe Avenue.
Is the applicant present? All right. Good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you. Riz Najmi with NAFA Engineering, 4108 Northwest 143rd Street, Oklahoma City. This drainage easement was recorded in this plat when it was done a few years ago. At that time, there was an existing blue line there. That blue line has since been removed, and we submitted the reports and the letter of non-jurisdiction letter from the Army Corps to the city. So as a result of that, that easement at this point is redundant, and we wanted it removed so we could use that area for development. Any questions?
Commissioner Pennington, this is Ward 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe there's an issue of, I don't have any issues with this application, it seems appropriate. I think there's an issue with the drainage easement, so I'd love to hear from Barry Lodge, as would everyone else here.
Barry Lodge, Public Works. Haven't got to do this in a long time.
Too long.
It's almost like I'm new at it again, right? Really, the only issue is that the Corps of Engineers did issue their letter of non-jurisdiction over the portion of the blue line where this easement was platted. But in their determination, they did show a continuation of Blue Line Stream that goes along the north property line. And so the request that we have with that, and I have spoken with the engineer about this, is that they extend that private drainage easement that is platted currently on the north side of the lots, extend that across the north side of the property to cover that Blue Line Stream.
So do we, if it's the private drainage easement, do we need to include that as a TE?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to have that included as a TE. They will need to file that of record and provide us a copy of that. It's just going to be similar to what would be done when we're doing an on-site private detention pond. It'll be that same type of an easement.
Okay.
And so it'll just be a separate instrument that will be filed.
Can you give us the phrasing one more time so that we can, of how you'd want it to read?
I'll do my best here, and then y'all can interpret it so that it sounds more intelligent. The private drainage easement along the north boundary of the plat will be extended to the west property line to cover the Blue Line Stream that has been determined as jurisdictional by the Corps of Engineers.
So if you can see that blue, like 30-foot private drainage easement, that is what needs to be extended all the way west.
Yes.
The red is the area that we're removing,
It needs to
which
go all the
leaves
way.
that 30-foot there, and we just extend it all the way west.
So when I look at this, going directly west along that northern property line doesn't actually get you to Chisholm Creek. I mean, it just dead ends at the property line. Is that really effective or helpful? I don't understand how you're going to make it hook up later.
Well, it's a different property owner to the west of that also, if they go in to develop that property in the future, then they're going to have to go through this same process with the Corps of Engineers for that jurisdictional determination, or, as would probably be more common, they'll wind up leaving that in a common area when they plat that, and it would be left in its natural condition. And so this applicant is only required to put that easement on where it crosses their property. That makes
Yeah, I mean,
sense?
that makes perfect sense in how they can affect property they don't own. But if you're comfortable that it's going to get the city what it needs to make this make sense later, then I'm way in over my head. So.
Yeah, this is it's more of an additional layer of protection for when that particular lot gets developed, that the owner of that lot, when they're building on that, they know that they cannot encroach in that easement and and disturb that blue line stream. That's really as much of the reason for doing this as anything, is it gives that protection for that blue line stream that's been determined.
Okay, well, there's a reason I went to law school. If you're good with it, I'm good with it.
Yeah. I think I've got it, Barry, but I guess be on standby for me to phrase it right. I don't have any further questions. I don't know if there's anything else. Then,
I think we're ready for a motion.
okay, Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval of VP 00008, including the TEs and adding in another TE to extend the private drainage easement that is on the northern boundary to the western boundary that is consistent with the current jurisdictional blue line. Was that good? Was that close?
Close
All
enough.
right. Municipal councilor said it's fine, so I'm gonna go with that.
Prior to city council. All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Pennington. It's been seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your votes. All right. As recommended for approval.
Thank you very much.
Item 4.
Item 4 is case PC 10970, application to rezone 7722 North Central Avenue from R1.
Good afternoon, David Box, 525 Northwest 11th Street, here on behalf of the applicant, which is Pat Garrett, who's also here with us. This is in an area where you're seeing a trend of more industrial development coming in. Mr. Garrett owns other parcels in this area, one of which will be the next item on the agenda. So the application is for I-2. Staff has recommended approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Pennington, this is Ward 7 again.
Thank you. Did meet with the applicant, and you'll notice that the other zoning, I have no issue with this zoning, it's consistent with everything that's in this area and where this area is going. However, I know we're going to deal with another zoning case, a companion piece for this area. I just think it's unusual and worth noting that there is this R1 space in the middle, but an effort's been made to reach out to those people. Obviously, they've been notified, but they don't seem concerned. I actually was worried for the applicant, saying you're going to get less use of this industrial property, having to mitigate the fact that you're next to residential. So it just seems like something that's unfortunate, but I'm in full support of the application because that's just appropriate for the area at this point. And I have no questions, so I'm ready to move if everyone else is.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval of PC 10970 to City Council.
I have a motion from Commissioner Pennington to recommend the item to City Council. It's been seconded by Commissioner Noble. Please cast your votes. That item's recommended for approval.
Thank you.
Item 5.
This is case PC 10969, application to rezone 7690 North Central Avenue from R1 to I2.
Once again, David Box, 525 Northwest 11th. This is essentially a companion item. We're just south along Central Avenue from where the previous item was. So same area, same set of facts. Happy to answer any questions.
I have no questions. I'm ready to move if everyone else is. Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval of PC 10969 to City Council.
We have a motion from Commissioner Pennington. It's been seconded by Commissioner Govine. Please cast your votes. That
Thank
item
you.
is recommended for approval. Thank you. Item 6.
This is case PC 10968, application to rezone 3716 Cromwell Avenue from C3 to R1.
Hi, I'm Brandon O'Brien, the Elevation Homes, the address 2416 Northwest 157th Terrace. We're looking to zone this to R1, to be able to have basically a house that's going to go right behind that's currently zoned commercial.
Okay. Commissioner Powers, this is Ward 2.
So this is one of the stranger applications I've come across during my time. The really good news is I found a place to take my dog for swimming lessons that's on this property, to the north here. When I looked at this, I just took me a while to wrap my head around the fact that they're going to build a house here. But, I couldn't find any fault with that, if that's where they want to live. They've met with the neighbors. They initially had some protests, but they seem to have withdrawn it. Is there anyone here signed up to speak?
I do not have anyone signed up to speak.
We don't very often, rezone C3 property to R1, but here we go. So, any of the commissioners have questions or
I was
concerns?
just shocked that there were objections. Like, I was like, wait, what? We're going from C3 to R1 and there's objections?
Well, apparently they thought there would be way more houses, like 6, but when you go look at the property, you kind of
not-
think, well, even that wouldn't be a big deal to me. But still, they're going to build a home there and live there, and so,
Sounds good.
yeah, sounds great to me, so.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I think we're ready for a motion.
If not, I will vote to approve item number 6, PC 10968.
We have a motion to recommend approval to City Council from
Did I
Commissioner
say
Powers.
vote?
It's been
Motion.
seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your votes. And that item's recommended for approval. Good luck. Item 7.
Item 7 is case PC 10967, application to rezone 12200 Westgate Drive from O1 to R3.
Hello, my name is Justin Craig, representing Charlie Bishop as the buyer of this property at 12200 Westgate Drive. Appreciate you giving me the chance to speak on this. Requesting a rezone from O1 to R3. No special waivers or variances initially here at this time. May have some after engineering, but at this time just seeking the R3 rezoning. These buildings are going to be high quality townhome style with attached garages, 2-story, and adequate parking on site. Received some concerns from the residents in the area, which is understandable. A few of them I'll just highlight in my response here. Decreased property values. I mean, we all would love an empty field in our backyard. That's ideal, but I think this is in conjunction with the other quality of the items in the area, and it would, I just don't believe it would decrease the property value. Invasion of privacy. It's going to be no different than if you had a typical R1 neighborhood with a 2-story home backed up to a 1-story home and a fence line in between. In fact, probably slightly more room in between than that. Numerous concerns about not enough space on this lot. It is an unusual shape. There are design challenges involved, and when we get into the engineering phase, I may have to make some adjustments to that. But they repeatedly have concerns about the fact that some power lines have recently been moved for road expansion in the future, and even with the new location of the power lines, as I depicted in a drawing presented, the power lines fall 4 feet outside of the property line, and that's the new location. Also, possibly some plans to expand Check Hall to 4 lanes. I've depicted that on the map I included in the expanded version, and I forget the number, but it's roughly 25 feet from the property boundary to the edge of the newly expanded Check Hall Road, 4 lanes. So it's a pretty good distance. I think that they're thinking that the property boundaries go all the way to the extension of the road and everything, and it's much further in than what they probably think. Not enough parking space. There will be plenty of on-site parking, including attached garages on all these units, so that'll be adequately addressed. There will be no need for street parking or congestion like that. Wouldn't be compatible with the existing usage. When I look around at the zoning map, I see numerous R3, R4, PUD, SPUD with overlays similar, and can even within a half-mile radius go and point out some buildings that are, one of them half-mile north is 4 stories tall, which this isn't even allowed under R3. This will only be 2 stories, and it abuts R1 neighborhood of residential single-family homes. So appreciate the time on this, and appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Meek, this is Ward 3. You want to lead our discussion?
Yes, sir. Do we have anybody signed up to speak?
I do have 2 folks signed up.
Okay. Before we hear from them, I wanted to say thank you. Justin did send me the same email that he sent staff, and they got the updated sketch in there for the site plan. Upon speaking to staff, I'd like to ask Ms. Sarah Welch to come up and explain. The issue I believe we have at hand is one parcel.
Sarah Welch, Planning Department. I'm not sure that's necessarily an issue, just a piece of information would be that in the R3 district, you're allowed up to a fourplex, one per lot. And so I don't think, we do have a site plan. You're not approving a site plan
Right.
with this application. You would just be approving the R3 district. And then it would be on the applicant to make that work, to see how many they could develop. But just to note that in order to have more than one structure, in this case up to a fourplex, each lot would have to meet all the conditions or the regulations for the lot, so the setbacks and the parking and the access.
Right, so what I wanted to say was with Mr. Craig, with your email that you sent me this morning, that you said you were wanting to do 2 fourplexes. That's not allowed. You're only allowed to do 1 per parcel. And so it would be a reduction by half of your dwelling units, according to your email. And I wanted to let the other commissioners know I got that email.
Sure, just to clarify, if he can meet the R3 minimum lot size and access and frontage requirements, then he could potentially have 2 lots and put one
Right,
on
but
each.
that would require a
Correct.
lot split.
Yes.
And/or possibly coming back with a spud.
Okay, one comment about that. Sarah met with me before and we
Okay.
explained that, and I realize that now. I had asked that question to the Planning Commission, and I guess didn't get an answer that I understood. But I am interested in moving forward with the R3 rezoning, even if only 1 fourplex unit could be put, and will follow all the zoning and ordinance requirements. May consider the spud or the split, whatever furthers the process, but even if it were only 1 unit, I would still be interested in the R3 rezoning.
Okay. Do you understand that if you deferred it, you could make that change now with your, with your spud? But if we go on through and vote to approve or deny, then that's over and you have to start over with the new application and fees.
Okay. Well, then maybe the best course of action would be to defer it.
And we still want to hear from whatever neighbors showed up, but what you're going to be speaking to is changed drastically in just the last couple of minutes, as you know. And so, and people do have the right to change their application. But with what's been said, one other item I wanted to speak to was the access on Check Hall Road. And if you don't mind, Mr. Lodge coming and telling us about that.
Barry Lodge, Public Works, again. Concern that I had with this is access onto Check Hall from residential units. And when we're going through I was making my comment on it, hadn't seen the layout, site plan, or any of this. So my comment at the time was that I don't want the residential units having access, individual access to the arterial street. So it's kind of an odd forum for talking about access in a rezoning application, but it's one thing that we did discuss in the pre-meeting. And so I think the way it's laid, the current zoning, that's what Sarah was telling me when I was walking up here just now, would allow the office use to take access onto Check Hall Road. So again, this may not be the proper forum to get that restriction, but it's something that we're going to look at in the future when the final site plan comes in for, if it goes to the R3 zoning, on what that's going to look like. If my preference, and I'll go ahead and throw this out, since we have the limits of no access on all of the residential that's going along Check Hall Road currently, I would prefer to see this residential taking access off of Westgate Drive, even if it's one driveway coming in to serve multiple units. So that's kind of what we had the discussion in. Again, this may not be the proper forum for making that decision, but that at least gives the applicant some things to think about as they're preparing the site plan for it.
Okay, are we ready to hear from
Yes.
folks signed up?
Before we do that, Mr. Chairman, I do have a few questions for Sarah, if you don't mind, Sarah, sorry. Because I do think it's important for our neighbors to have a full understanding of what rights the property owner currently has.
Right.
So that we're making a direct comparison with the zoning between what they can do now and what they're asking for permission for. So what are the height limitations of O1 next to R1?
It's 20 feet in one story within, I'll have to double check, 35 feet, I think.
So if it's within 20 feet of R1, it has to be one story?
If it's within 35 feet of R1, it has to be 20 feet in one story.
Okay.
And then but once you're past 35 feet, then you can be 2 stories and 35 feet tall.
Okay. I do think that's important as we're trying to figure out how we mitigate this, especially since it sounds like it's coming back as a spud. That would be an expectation that I would have, is that the neighbors aren't any more affected than they would have been if they put an office building there, which they already have the right to do. So anyway, I think that's all. Unless you have something else to think of that I didn't already, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, let's hear from Mr. Kenny Reyes.
Good afternoon. Pardon me. Kenny Reyes, 12200 Southwest 8th Place. Thank you for your time today. I was going to go ahead and speak. My letter, for whatever reason, didn't end up in y'all's packet. So I was just going to read my letter. To whom it may concern, my name is Kenny Reyes. I live at 12200 Southwest 8th Place, which is one of the 3 properties that share property line west of the property seeking rezoning. The purpose of my letter is to express my opposition to the proposed rezoning request for the current O1 to R3, case PC 10967. Main reasons for this concern are centered around privacy issues and loss of property value. When my family and I first moved to our current home in 2008, we accepted the fact that one day something would eventually be built on that property, but being zoned as it was not overly concerned with it. I once inquired about the property in question because I was interested in possibly purchasing to put a small neighborhood snow cone stand on it. I was told during the conversation with the owner that he could see something like a small nail salon with a few parking spots on it. Due to the amount that he was asking for the property at the time, I soon moved past that idea. Recently, the work has begun on the road expansion of Czech Hall directly behind my property. During the process, they've taken out most of the trees behind the roadway in my backyard that for many years provided privacy and shade for me and my family. They have also recently moved the poles to support the overhead utility lines, thus reducing the footprint of this lot even further, and are supposed to begin work on the concrete drainage spillway behind my residence. If the proposed use of the 2 fourplex structures as outlined in the letter is approved, the only way you can see this happen is by being vertically. Listening to the discussion this morning, I understand a little bit more, but still, regardless, it's going up, making a multi-story, and thus further eroding the privacy my family and I and my neighbors have enjoyed for many, many years. Enclosed are pictures. The original packet that I sent had pictures showing different heights from it. Other concerns with the rezoning request are the aesthetics of multi-story structure in the surrounding residential neighborhoods and the parking required to accommodate the amount of people that would be living in these fourplexes. In my opinion, this would create a very crowded and cramped area that will most likely also influence mine and my neighbor's property value going forward. If the rezoning request is approved and moved forward, I would request that a row of trees be planted that are no less than 12 feet tall at the time of planting along the concrete drainage spillway to provide privacy and noise reduction for the residents. I understand that progress is going to happen, and I'm happy with what Oklahoma City has accomplished, but I'm also excited about the future, what the future holds. I just don't see how rezoning this property into what has been requested is a positive for the city or the residents that live in this area and call it home. So.
Any questions for Mr. Reyes? No? All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Is it Christian Braun? Christopher.
Hello, Christopher Brown. I live directly behind this property, and just very quickly, contrary to what was stated earlier, if you look on the map there, you'll actually see on this particular map that shows the general area, there are no R3s. This would be the only R3 that actually exists on this map. When I bought this house 15 years ago, I was aware that there was a very small section behind there. Before I bought the house, I checked to see what could be there. And I saw that it was registered for a small office. That would be fine. I understood that. I have lived with that for 15 years, and I'm happy to live with that. If they want to put another office on there, that would be fine. However, there is no R3 on here, and contrary to what was said, I do believe that would have a negative effect on our property values, which I do not believe a small office would. No more than about 400 yards up Check Hall, there actually is a small office, a roofing company. It looks like a house. It's very nice. Something like that would be perfect for this space. This is a very small space, as you guys have already discovered. You really will, it will have to be very crowded in there. It really should be no more than a home, no more than a small office. And I think to change this to R3, to allow some multi-structured, multi-story building does not fit in with the neighborhood and does not fit in with the expectations of when we bought this house. We believe that this to be just unfair to change that at this point. We recommend that it do stay at 01 as it was when we bought it, and as assumedly when the person who bought the property knew it was as well. So thank you for your time. We do appreciate it.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Brown? All right, thank you. Okay, that's everyone I have signed up to speak.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Craig, do you still want to proceed with, or do you want to do the deferral?
This is probably not.
If you can come back up to the mic, please.
Well,
I think I'd like to defer. I'd like to get an idea from the planning members here if it were deferred and there were no solutions that furthered the plan as written, if it would likely be approved with a single structure as R3, if that makes any sense. In other words, what's the Planning Commission's opinion on the R3? And if that's favorable, which it sounds like it possibly is, then I would like to defer and continue with the SPUD.
okay.
I don't have an objection necessarily to the zoning being R3. My objection is to everything that the neighbors said about their privacy and the distance between another building and their homes. And so I would want to see there being significant mitigation for the neighbors whose backyards are facing this property. So that to me looks like a big buffer for landscaping. I don't know how big the site is, and I'm not an engineer, so I could not tell you how much space, whether these thoughts are actually feasible. But the question that I asked Sarah is indicative of my opinion. If they couldn't put a two-story building there already at a certain distance to these homes, then I certainly wouldn't want to give you the chance to build multifamily any closer, if that makes sense.
Right.
So that would be my concern. But again, I'm not an engineer. I don't know if that's possible on this site with these dimensions. But that's my concern, is protecting the neighbor's privacy and ensuring that they're not next to some building that's bigger than they would have been already if it stayed 01.
So my concerns about the application as it stands are all concerns that can be addressed through an SPUD. They have to do with landscaping, they have to do with, the property situation, the structure situation on the site. Access, and, all those kinds of things. Even, the privacy with respect to opaque windows or where the windows are placed and all that. But we can't do that in a straight zoning request. We can do it in an SPUD. So, I hear the neighbors saying, that just the fact that it's multifamily is a big problem for them. That's not the problem I have with it. The problem I have with it are all things that can be addressed through an SPUD. So that would be my advice to you, to pursue that route. And I'm guessing you can come up with something that the majority of people on this on this commission would find acceptable.
Right, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to speak to these neighbors, especially the ones that came here to speak today. We always request that and like it when it happens. And, you know, so since they took time out of their day to come down, it's kind of morphed into only one structure, not two. So it's gotten halfway better probably in their books. If you looked at changing your application to a SPUD where we could, along to protect them, put a row of a buffer, certain requirement on landscaping, access, stuff that we spoke about, then it becomes to where everybody's bought in a lot better.
Sure.
So,
Okay. Well, then it sounds like in that case,
I'm so sorry to clarify, Commission, are you saying that, that you're recommending a SPUD even just for one quadplex? Or are you saying that if he wants to pursue the two, he should seek the SPUD?
I can't imagine that two can fit, but I would say even for one structure, I'd want to see an SPUD
Right.
because we don't know, we can't do any mitigation to support our neighbors. So,
right, I'm good with both. And the answer is both.
then I'd like to defer and pursue the SPUD.
Sarah, do you have a date that deferral would be best to fit into the schedule?
I've got a travel schedule for the next 6 weeks.
Okay.
And I do have several available dates based upon your meeting. Can I weigh some input on that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's going to have to be, I mean, it's going to have to be renoticed, so
Okay.
we're probably looking at, well, we'll let planning tell us.
Early June.
I was looking at the calendar and I didn't hear your schedule. You would be at least the second meeting in May. There's only one meeting in June.
I could make the second meeting in May.
That would be, okay, that'll be May 22nd.
Okay.
Okay. With that said, if commissioners don't have anything else, I'd like to recommend a deferral till May 22nd.
We have a motion from Commissioner Meek to defer the item to the May 22nd meeting. It's been seconded by Commissioner Powers. Please cast your votes. And that item is deferred. So for our neighbors present,
Thank you.
just, that'll be renoticed, so you should get notification on that, and just keep an eye on the city agendas to confirm that meeting. Item 8.
Item 8 is case SP 597, application for a special permit to operate use unit 8300.33 drinking establishments in the C3 district at 13801 Northwestern Avenue.
We have a good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name's Sarah Zendovic. I'm here for address 13801 Northwestern Avenue. We are applying for a special permit to change the use to a bar. I am the owner of Daiquiri Factory. We currently have a location on the south side. Basically, we would love the opportunity to expand and bring the same quality product, customer service, and consistency to this new location. We do take pride in running a clean and compliant business and have never had any problems. We were voted #1 business, #1 bar in 2024. So we would just really appreciate the opportunity and thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Noble, this is Ward 8.
Thanks. Did anyone sign up to speak?
I do not have anyone signed up to speak.
I mean, I don't have any problem with the application. Does any other commissioners have anything on this?
I have questions about the voting for #1 bar, but, you know, I don't know that
You
that's
guys have to
relevant.
go try it.
So,
I don't think there's anything. So,
I mean, it meets all of the criteria for the requested zoning, so I'll recommend approval of SP 597.
Thank you so much.
We have a motion to recommend approval of SP 597. That's been seconded by Commissioner Pennington. Please cast your votes. And that is recommended for approval. Good luck. Item 9.
Item 9 is SP 598, application for a special permit to operate use unit 8300.33, drinking establishments in the C4 Commercial District at 2120 Northwest 39th Street.
Now you can't say you're the number one bar just because they walked out. So,
Number two. Hello, guys. My name is Carlos Dyer. I'm here to represent the Hollywood here at the address of 2120 Northwest 39th Street. And we're looking at this C4 zoning, and I'm guessing that's because the residence behind the bar. Is this correct?
C4 is the zoning that you have right now. So you're
special-
and it's a commercial designation. It's actually more dense than we commonly give out, frankly. But this is an older part of town, and so that's why it's just been there a long, long time. But what you're seeking is a special permit to allow a drinking establishment, a
Yes.
bar. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
So keep going.
So we're actually from Emerald, Texas, and we were looking for a place there that we can pursue this dream of ours, actually. And we were doing pretty good there in Amarillo until COVID decided to come in and split us up a couple of months there. We were doing pretty well there. Our rival next door I used to work for took over the bar, so we had to move out. Benny, who's pretty much the owner of the place, has family here in Oklahoma and friends, and he's at the motocross here, so he's constantly here in Oklahoma City. So we decided to try to find a place here that actually would accept us and let us have a place to run our dreams. And so what we're trying to do is actually zone this back out, I guess, as a bar, which is actually just a cocktail lounge is what we're actually going for. Servicing in special drinks, cocktails, and then being part of the community. So that's what we're really here for.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, is there anybody signed up to speak?
I do have 2.
Let's hear from them.
Okay. We'll start with, is it Carlos Adair? That's you. Oh, okay. All right. Very good. Well, then the other person is Andrea Jackson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for your time. My name is Andrea Jackson, and I'm here to represent 2120 Northwest 39th. We are applying to receive a permit for a bar, cocktail lounge. So as just to back up what Carlos said, we have a passion for the industry. I've been in the industry 20 years. And number 2, I'll take number 2 bar, so yeah, just kidding. But we really have a passion for the industry. And we've been doing this a long, long time. And we have a dream and a vision. And I support liberal arts massively, hence the Hollywood, film and everything else. So there's great colleges, universities here that their students can come and show us what they have and have a platform to come to. And that's what our dream and our vision, part of our dream and our vision is. And to supply great drinks in a safe, healthy environment. So thank you all for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it.
So I'm a little surprised. Noticed on this kind of a special permit goes 600 feet. My only real concern, if you're going to put a bar someplace, this would probably be where you would put it. But my only real concern about it at all is impact on nearby residential. There is a site plan that indicates, outdoor area on the south side, which is the closest to the surrounding residential. When I spoke to, I believe it was Mr. Dyer, who indicated that they plan to operate until 2 a.m. That's a little late, certainly during the week. for something to be outdoors. I know we have controls in place with respect to limitation and separation and all that kind of stuff, you know, beyond 11 p.m. and so on. I'd like to see that tightened up a little bit, certainly during the week, but I think this is a great place for this business. A special permit is, you know, one of the few ways that we have the opportunity to put some limitations on these kinds of uses. The fact that there's nobody here about this is a little surprising to me, frankly, but I have not received any calls. There haven't been any protests. So what would you think about limiting your hours a little bit?
So, yes, we've talked about the hours, closing the patio early so that everybody starts going inside, and then closing the inside so everybody can exit out the building.
So what would you be comfortable with in terms of closing the patio early?
We can definitely close about 12 o'clock. That way it gives them 2 hours inside the building, somewhere around that time. We also know that there's residents behind, but those are empty homes that homeless have lived in, because we've had issues with them coming over to our lot and taking our electricity. They've been plugging in their cell phones, they've been plugging in all kinds of stuff, and we found out that they were at the homes behind our building. So we do know that there's nobody back there at those homes. That's a whole block, because there's 2 homes there that are vacant, but actually homeless are living inside.
Well, that's sort of a separate issue that I'm hoping that we're doing something about, but I would like to see, I think, the limitations on the hours outdoors for during the week, maybe to be 10 o'clock rather than 11. And then on weekends, I think midnight's fine.
If I may, I'm curious. I have a little bit of a concern as far as the potential for preemption. Just I know I'm flying a little blind here. It's been a while, but this entity will be licensed by the state. There are state statutes in place as far as operating hours. So as far as the licensed premise, assuming the outdoor space is going to be a licensed premise as far as the state license is concerned, and it probably will be, it should be. It has to be in order to have consumption on it. I'm concerned those state statutory regulations would preempt whatever we would.
Well, then what's the point of a special permit?
Well, it's not that we don't have the ability to do some certain things, but I'm concerned that the state has spoke directly on the point of hours of operation for this particular type of entity. So in the event that they're licensed, statute tells us when that they're able to sell and serve alcohol. That's at least what's going on in my head right now.
So my only option is to not license the patio or turn them down for their zoning? I mean.
Well, I don't even necessarily know that the patio, if it's part of their licensed premise with the state, I mean, it's going to encompass that entire premise.
So they don't even need a special permit? That doesn't make sense to me.
No, they would need to comply with the city's zoning ordinances. However, I think particularly with hours of operation, the statutes speak to that directly. But they also state that they have to comply with municipal zoning code. So I'm not saying that we're powerless. It's just on particular topics, I think there's at least the potential that we might be preempted. In particular.
Then I'm not prepared to vote on this today. I mean, I want a real opinion from the municipal councilor's office on that topic.
Mm-hmm.
If our special permit does not permit us, our special permit is also part of our zoning. So if that does not give us the authority to limit the hours of operation outdoors this close to R1, that's a big problem for me.
Mm-hmm. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to bring that to the forefront.
Yeah, I appreciate the input, but I want to know one way or the other about this.
We would too.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
you're
we
going to
would
need to
definitely
now.
I understand.
So you're
both.
saying that there would have to be 2 permits, one for the patio and then one for the building, or no?
No.
No, that's not the issue. The question is whether we have the authority to limit your hours of operation here.
I'm Sarah Welch, Planning Department. I'm not going to speak to the hours of operation. what Stephen has said reminds me of a different location, different case. However, with the special permit, one of the conditions is that the outdoor patio area has to be at least 100 foot from at least 100 feet from the nearest residential property line. We are bringing this application to you because they meet that condition.
And I know that's true. But what's between them and the R1 to the south is a big open space, you know? I drove it last night. It's not, there's nothing out there that's going to mitigate that sound or buffer it in any way. So I just remember when we did the approval of, I won't be able to remember the name of it.
The Hilo. Wasn't it the Hilo that we did that?
Well, there was that one. No, but there's a, down the street here, up on a hill, there's a dinner club kind of thing that at the time seemed like a perfectly, you know, appropriate use for that property that has been a huge, huge problem for the surrounding R1 in terms of noise and so on. So I'm very reluctant to permit outdoor use of you know, a bar this close to R1. It's just a problem for me. Late night. I mean, you know, people got to live, they got to go to work in the morning and so on. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Ms. Powers, yes, ma'am. We do not have a speaker system outdoors on the patio at all. So there is no outdoor speakers at all. No outdoor music, nothing going outdoors that is anything broadcasted on an audio device. Just to let you know, ma'am.
That would assuage my concerns a great deal. You think that's appropriate?
That's different than limiting hours of
I
operation.
understand. I'm just
So I
asking.
think that's right in your wheelhouse as far as the special permit's concerned.
And we have done that in the past, limited to, we've said
Amplification.
no, what's the word?
Amplified sound.
Amplification,
sound.
yeah. And you're okay with that?
Yes, we are.
2 a.m. is really, really, you know.
But if there's no music, I mean, that's a big part of it.
It is. It is.
And I think this property was operated as a bar previously too, right?
It has, yes. And yeah, it absolutely has. Okay, Mr. Barker, I'm going to ask for that opinion anyway. But if nobody else has anything that they're concerned about or want to comment on, nobody else who wants to be heard, I'm going to move approval on item 9, SP 598, with the caveat that there will be no outdoor amplification of sound of any kind on the patio.
Correct.
We have a motion from Commissioner Powers to recommend approval, subject to the TE as she read into the record. It's been seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your vote. And that is recommended for approval. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
All right, item 10 has been deferred, as has item 11. Brings us to item 12.
This is SPUD 1721, application to rezone 432 Southeast 44th Street from R1.
Hi, I'm Victor Posadas. I'm representing Martin Perez. If you have any questions on this one, I think it's pretty simple. Change of zoning. Going to be a car dealer.
Okay. Commissioner Privet, this is Ward 4.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not super thrilled with the use, but at the same time, it's only one or two uses, actually, and they're not very impactful. But do we have anybody that's signed up?
I do not have anyone signed up to speak.
All right. So we just need to make sure we've got the correct protections and, fences, barriers, stuff like that. Are you agreeable to the TE for the alleyway?
Excuse me?
The alleyway, technical evaluation to improve the alley?
Yeah, there's going to be an alley there. There's an alley on the back.
Right, okay. What?
It's all, but so the technical evaluation is the alleyway shall be improved It doesn't state by the applicant, but it's inferred, shall be improved to allow access with all improvements constructed in accordance with the applicable City of Oklahoma City standards and specifications. So that means that you're responsible for the cost to improve the alley.
Okay,
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
From block to block
okay.
is what it looks like.
Is it
Not
block to
just
block,
behind
or
the
is it just
property.
behind the property?
It's
Should
just for the
should just
extent
be
of the property.
I believe.
It's just hashed out the whole way from block to
And
block.
then the next one should be in charge of their part of the alley, I believe.
I think it's just hashed out because that's where it was closed, so.
Right.
But typically, we only require it across their property line and to the nearest access to a public street, so in this case, probably to the
Barry, could
east.
you give us a clarification on that, please?
Third time for Barry today.
We're-
Barry Lodge Public Works. Alleyways are really difficult to clarify. The way the regulations, requirements are written on them they're just difficult animals. It looks like on this one too, that this has been closed and vacated, and so it's going to fall under a little bit different requirement for that improvement. The way that it's in there right now, there's no improvement to that alleyway at all, and so it really can't be used for access. It is split up when that's closed and vacated. It's split up between the adjacent property owners, and so I think they've got some issues other than the improvement on having the adequate space to put a driveway in there for access at all. Is what it looks like to me. And so I think this one's not going to, since it has been closed and vacated, it doesn't look like it's going to fall under our normal requirement of having, for that improvement, but it's going to go to the driveway access and requirements and what needs to be put in there, because it's now been closed and vacated. It is no longer considered a public access.
Do we know it's been vacated?
I'm just looking on the zoning map.
I know it's been
Okay, we know
closed.
it's closed. We don't know it's vacated or not. I don't know if it's been through that process.
Okay,
You're
so
gonna
if it's
see-
vacated, of course, it reverts to private property. If it's
So-
just been closed, the city has retained the right, however unlikely, to reopen it. So those are two very different things.
Right.
If I just look at an aerial, so there's a couple of places where there's a fence across it further to the west. And it's
shown
hard
on
to
the
tell to the east, but it looks to me like there's fence, like the alleys, it still exists as far as the easement that's there, even though it's been closed, but there's no fences across it on the east end, but.
So is there a way that we require it to be improved if it's going to be used for access? I mean, there's not any reason for us to require him to improve it if he is not intending to use it for any kind of access.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I would suggest that the TE is slightly reworded to say, if used for access,
They will improve.
that it'll be improved.
Alley, right.
Had you had plans to use it for access?
I don't know, maybe they will.
You don't know?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
don't know yet.
I think, yeah, that conditional language probably ought to be included.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will move to recommend approval SPUD 17.
Before we do, I have one more question.
go
though.
ahead.
As a car dealership,
Right.
there is a site plan that shows parking spaces. Are the areas that are indicated on the plan the only place that cars will be displayed?
That's the plan. That's the owner's plan, so we decided with the parking areas like that.
How do the commissioners feel about, I mean, do we want to include anything about, display of vehicles shall be limited to, or displayers shall be limited to what's shown on the plan. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any, or, I mean, they have to go through permitting to get this approved, where they would then want to see, is there ADA parking spaces for customers, that kind of thing. So there may need to be some adjustment and a refinement to this layout. So do we want to allow some flexibility for, subject to approval by the building department?
Yes, once we have the plans submitted for permit, they're gonna be adjusted.
Right.
It has to be done per code, so.
I just didn't want to create a new issue later where we
No,
tied it
that's- I mean,
so
that's a-
closely to this that
that's-
they can't make it work for actually get permitted.
That's a good comment. Anyone else have thoughts on that?
Obviously, you know, if they're going to have to go comply with the requirements of building department to get their approvals, then yeah, there probably needs to be some kind of, is that a director approval thing? I don't know what.
I guess, I'm not sure, maybe Sarah or Jared can help us with what exactly the parking regulations are and how they, the 8th floor, I guess, would administer those. I have the same concern that, you know, they could come up with a better layout than this, and we wouldn't want to limit them to what's shown here.
I know through the last car lot that we dealt with, I spoke to this, and as far as the development center, they're gonna use, what is it, 50 by 30, whatever existing buildings there is gonna have to meet minimum parking requirement, 1 per 1,000 for warehouse, 1 per 200 for office, and those will have to be provided as available public spaces.
Are we more concerned about the display parking than we are about the customer parking, I think, maybe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speak.
Sarah Welch, Planning Department. The answer I'm prepared to provide is not I'm not sure is the one you're looking for. Are you? I have the parking requirement for the use unit. Is that what you're seeking? Like what the customer parking and what would be required?
No. I think in where we've seen these applications recently, we've had the ability to kind of, for the applicant to designate where their display space is going to be.
I think the display space could be anywhere that's not on the public right-of-way and on their site, and that's not already used for building or drive aisles or required parking.
The question then becomes, how invested are we in designating the display space? What you don't want is for these things to just become overrun, where.
That's what I see on, and I'm sure, it's in both our wards, Northwest 39th, is you just see cars packed in there.
Yeah, just as many as they can.
Lined up on the street.
So.
On top of each other.
I would like to avoid that if we could.
Is it a setback concern, like too close to the street? I know sometimes I see car lots that are just pushed right up there.
A lot of times, even the smaller lots, up on Britton Road is one of the worst areas, where, they're parked like, 3 cars deep. You couldn't even get in there to look at one without moving cars. It's like a Rubik's Cube. And if there's a way that we can avoid that, that would be a good thing. We've done it different ways. We've limited the number of cars that they can display at one time, but yeah, as Kamal is often saying, I'm not an engineer, how that would work on a site like this, which is a relatively small site, how many you could accommodate and still not have it turn into just a.
It could be.
It looks like there's 32 spots that they have dictated right now, so however many for the building and less that to the number of cars that could be placed on site.
We could limit it to just the number of parking stalls allowable under code for, the parking and circulation, and/or we could say that you can't double stack or triple stack cars.
Why wouldn't the use unit have
That it has to be a parking lot essentially that allows for full circulation. So that would limit the amount of, and then I'm not sure what the setback is, Sarah, if they can park like literally right on the property line. I think there's a setback for parking.
You can park in the setback.
So that could be made clear that there has to be a certain landscape strip that you can't park in.
I mean, you could certainly lay out an efficient layout and get more cars on this site without it being a jumbled up, double stacked spaces. So to me, that if the site circulation meets the regulations as far as, if you've got two-way traffic, is it angle in, is it 90 degree, as long as the circulation, cars can get on and off the site safely, whatever cars they can park to serve their building, however many more they can fit on the site and meet the regs, that's how many they can sell, they can have for display. Does that make sense? I mean, that's kind of what you're saying, but to me, that's the check and balance on this, is lay the site out as well as you can with your landscaping, with your ADA spaces. Make sure you satisfy the building requirement, and then the rest is what you can display. How do we say that? Must meet codes. Because, City of OKC
Well, I mean, I think that's,
site requirements.
Nate, I think the problem that you and I have with this is I don't know how many of those car lots, are really meeting current code, or whether they just continue to exist because they've always been there, and we have a complaint-based system for code enforcement and so on.
Right.
Now, I don't know, because I certainly am not. My kids had a little game that had cars that you moved around to get things off the board when they were little that I used to love to play with, but in trying to lay out an actual site for somebody that's trying to operate a business, that's beyond me. I'd like to see it not become a mess. I'm not quite sure how we accomplish that. They're doing it through an SPUD, so I think we've got the framework we need, but what it would actually take, I don't know.
This one's a little different than the others we've seen recently because it's new. I mean, this is
Maybe about 40.
they have the ability, and they had Roca Engineering, they have a site plan. They had the ability to go a step further and put in customer parking, show the approaches and the islands, which they didn't, in circulation, which they have not shown. Just my opinion. They're not far away from being able to do that.
I agree with Jeremy. I mean, if you're going to get real specific about it, the only way we're going to get there is with a more developed site plan, I think.
That we can tie to.
Commissioner Privet, I mean, this is your ward, so I mean, what are your feelings on it?
Yeah, I'd like to see more details on it as well. Like I said, I wasn't thrilled with the use, but I'm not, totally opposed to it either. I think it's innocuous enough where it could be okay, as long as we could review it. Maybe the lighting, stuff like that, I think will be a concern. So if you wouldn't mind taking a deferral, at least till what, May?
I think we're going to do everything by code. I mean, we can't do anything that's outside the code. So all the ordinances, also we have to keep it. So this should be...
Code is R1.
We're going to leave areas for transit. This is a display area, so there's not going to be traffic. Pretty much it's going to be one customer or two customers a day or three, I don't know, but there's not going to be traffic. Or somebody's going to park and look at the cars and buy a car, and that's the business.
Yeah, we understand that. We got that part.
Let me ask, are you saying that as the site plan exists currently, the one that you're showing us here as Exhibit B, that all of the parking on site you believe would be display?
Mostly, they're gonna have parking for customers, one area. So whoever's gonna come, gonna park in that area. And still gonna have also handicap. We have to provide for handicap. All the ADA has to be implemented, bathrooms, everything.
So what of the parking that's shown on here currently is for your customers?
This is just showing to change the zoning. Once we get approved, then we're gonna do the final plan for permit. The final plans are gonna be reviewed by the city, and they're gonna check if we have enough parking, if we have enough handicap, if they're gonna have the ramps. They're gonna look the entrance, every single detail.
I think what we're saying is, in order to get that approval, we would like to see more detail about your parking, about what is display parking, what is customer parking, where it's going to be located on site.
Yeah, we can do if we get approved, I mean, we can spend the money to do the final plan.
Yeah, but I'm saying just the opposite. You're going to need to spend that money to get the approval, I think.
Okay.
I think for us to be comfortable with this as a car lot, we're going to want to see that.
Okay, so you need a new plan then?
And it may not have to be, meet all the.
I think there just needs to be some additional information added to the plan that's there to make it clear.
The parking area, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for instance, like there's a label that says entrance, but there's no like driveway shown. So I think we want to understand how many driveways there are, which I think code will dictate how many you can have.
One.
Which is the one. We want to see where that is and how that relates to, and then we want to see display space, and then customer parking and ADA parking.
Okay.
The landscape would be nice too.
Yeah, and you kind of
Lighting,
and the landscape,
stuff like that.
requirement shown.
Yep.
So,
How long will it take you to do that? 2 weeks, a month?
2 weeks probably.
2 weeks? Okay.
There you go.
Move to defer SPUD 1721 to the meeting in 2 weeks. Whatever date that is, 24th of April.
all right, so we have a motion from Commissioner Privet to defer that item to the 24th of April.
Wait just a second, what?
No, I'm just saying, for our applicant, it's a 2-week deferral, but we would need any new exhibits next week. Okay.
Did you catch that?
Sir?
We would need the information in 1 week to be able to hear it at the meeting in 2 weeks. Let's do, okay. Okay. All right, so a motion from Commissioner Privet to defer the item to the April 24th meeting. That's been seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your votes. And that is deferred. Item 13 has been deferred. Item 14.
Item 14 is SPUD 1723, application to rezone 11100 North Kelly Avenue from SPUD 902.
Once again, David Box, 525 Northwest 11th Street, here on behalf of the applicant. What you see before you is an indoor soccer facility with a spud that's fairly limiting. My client is desiring to add a few uses, including the wholesaling, storage, distribution restricted. There are 2 TEs, both of which we agree to.
Okay. Commissioner Pennington?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have met with the applicant. It's a pretty simple application. All makes sense to me. Do we have anyone signed up to speak?
I do not.
Then I'm prepared to make a motion now unless there's other questions. I move to recommend to City Council approval of SPUD 1723.
You're making a recommendation to yourself.
I get to vote on this twice.
All right, yeah. Still going to be a soccer place, right?
For now, but
For
at
now.
least, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Pennington to recommend the item. It's been seconded by Commissioner Noble. Please cast your votes.
For now. No, it's not going to be. That would be a negative.
We don't see the votes, but it shows as passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is the end of our individual items. Brings us to communications and report, planning commission committees. Anything? No. Planning Commission members? Commissioner Powers? Nothing. Commissioner Meek?
Yes, I would like to say congratulations to Mr. Kamal Pennington on his new city council election.
Win by a landslide.
We're going to miss you here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Privet? Commissioner Newman? Commissioner Govine?
Nothing more. I second the congratulations to Commissioner Pennington.
Thank you, and you're still stuck with me for one more meeting, and I hope it's like this one before 3 o'clock. I can't remember the last time we were out before 3 o'clock. So I think I should just talk for the next 15 minutes, just to, no,
Commissioner Noble?
It's about the election until next time, but I do want to say, since we're talking about it, big net benefit to the city. You know, we hate to lose you here, but it's going to be great.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I think you've had such an impact in planning and zoning and the development of our community, and I can only imagine the impact that you'll have as a city councilman. So congratulations. Planning Department?
Just wanted to mention that the study session, you may have seen already, but that's moved to May 8th. We need to give ourselves time to a little more time to brief council members and council members-elect to prepare for that. So after that, we'll bring it back to council or the commission for the actual vote, and then go right on to council. And so it's definitely on the move, but we've got a little more work to do, so we had to push it out. So you should see that on your calendars, and we'll be getting information on that to you as soon as we can, but it may be the night before, no guarantees. So there's just a lot of discussions to be had. So.
Okay, thank you. Municipal Councilor's Office? Nothing? All right. Any citizens to be heard? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.